Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loga Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Vatarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavandau Punah Punaha Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmatacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagini Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukaro Anthakaro Vai Rukarastan Nivartakaha Anthakara Nirodhitvat Guru Ritya Vidhiyate Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Om Bhadram Karne Vishranayama Devaha Bhadram Pashyema Kshatriyachatraha Sthirairangai Sushtuvam Sastanupihi Veshema Devahitam Yatayuhu Swasti na Indro Vrittashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishyavedaha Swasti nastakshu Arishtanemihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dathatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, we are looking into Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad is talking about Omkara. By analyzing the three states which are occurring in a human body. And we are in the 7th verse of Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. After 6 verses, the kārikā, a treatise written by Gaudapada Acharya, which is also studied along with Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad in our tradition. We saw almost 9 verses of kārikā, and right now again we are going to look into the 7th verse of Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad. One of the best verse of Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad, and we need to analyze properly. So first of all, I will read that verse, and after that we will look into this verse properly. Okay. Nantaf prajñam na bahish prajñam na ubhayata prajñam na prajñanakhanam na prajñam na aprajñam adrishtham avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyavatishyam ekatma pratyasaram prapancha upashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma sa vigneyaha. Once more I will read. It's one of the best verse which talks about the entire vision. I will read once more. Nantaf prajñam na bihish prajñam na upayataf prajñam na prajñanaghanam na prajñam na aprajñam adrishtam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyapatishyam ekatma pratyasaram prapancha upashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma vigneyaha. This is the verse. So, Māṇḍūkya Upaniṣad is taking the formula to understand the reality behind the creation and behind an individual. Which formula? A systematic method from the known to the unknown. by analyzing the three states, and these three states are being negated by showing the reality. So that three states are being analyzed, and from there it will go to the unknown reality. So this verse, first of all, I need some general information. This verse is talking about the pure consciousness, which is free from all kinds of limitations. What are the limitations are being negated, which are known? So the logic is like that. When the mistaken ideas are being pointed out, the reality is illuminated. The reality will get illuminated. The mistaken ideas, when we take away, the knowledge will right in front of you. Like, we need not to point out this is a rope. Instead of that, this is not a snake. At the same time, the object, which is the reality, is being just right in front of you. So taking away all illusory ideas and pointing out the reality. For that, in the method of negation, adhyaropa apavatena nishprapancham prapanchate. I already mentioned you these sentences. First of all, we superimpose certain things which are known. Then we will negate them by showing the limitations of these superimposed things. Then the reality is right there in front of you. So, Shankara starts his Bhashya commentary for this verse like this, why this Upanishad is talking about the negation of the things instead of pointing the reality. So a question will arise in the person's view. Because in Sanskrit, it is called nanya, negation, na antah prajnam. It is not the consciousness which is obtaining inside a body. Na upayata, na brahish prajnam. It is not the consciousness or the things which are appearing outside the body. Like that, it is not. Neti iti vakya. By pointing, what are the things which we know? They are not the real things. They are not the reality. By pointing them, the reality is being pointed out, which is our goal, human goal. So, Shankara himself raised a question. Why Upanishad took this type of formula for making us understanding the reality? And he write like this. I will tell you. I already mentioned you in the last class. Sarva shabda pravritti nimitta shunyatvad tasya shabda abhidheyatvam idi vishesha pradishedhena eva cha turiyam nirdidikshati. Because the words are not having any scope to point out the reality. I will repeat the same sentence. Please make sure you understood. I am going to explain this sentence only. Because the words are not having any scope to point out the reality, by negating the whole idea which are superimposed on the reality, the vastu, the goal, the consciousness is being pointed out. Why? How? The words cannot be used towards an object. This is the thing. So I mentioned you in a smaller way. Words are only indicatable, or we can express in words towards 5 types of categories. Suppose if you are using a word, that word can only use towards five categories. One of the categories is substance and its attribute. For example, black rock. The substance is a rock and black is an attribute towards that. Because this is not a substance or there is no any attribute to point out, the first category cannot be used towards the consciousness. I will repeat again. The substance and its attribute, if it is there, we can use a word. Now, second category, generic and specific. Trees, and you say banyan tree. When you say trees, it's a general species, a group of species. After that, you can use a specific name, banyan tree. Last class, I told you tutors, the teachers. Then you can say chemistry tutor. It's in general way, they are teachers, and this guy is the chemistry tutor. This is called generic and specific way of mentioning something. Because this Atman will not have any species, Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma, the one and only consciousness, and it will belong to any kind of species. So there is no specific way or general way of mentioning the consciousness. And the fourth category, conventional meanings. Like when you see something right in front of you through any means, like direct perception or inference or presumption, something like that, you perceive. So moon is very far from us, but we see with our eyes, and we will give a word or name towards that moon. What is the meaning of the moon? It comes from generation after generation. So you need not to analyze the meaning of the word moon. It's Rudi. In Sanskrit, it's called Rudi. It's all from our forefathers, grandfathers, or before that, generation after generation, a word is used and it is there even right now. We cannot analyze we cannot have an analysis on the word moon. It's a substance and it's far away, and the people used to say it's a moon. So Rudhi Artham. They are called conventional meaning or word, They come from generation after generation, which doesn't have a proper meaning connected towards the word. And Brahman will not fall under this category also. Brahman is not something staying with a form to analyze by our direct perception or inference, etc., etc. And that is going to say also, adrishtam avyavaharyam. It is not an empirical thing. It's not available for our perception. So that conventional meaning will also, conventional meaning also doesn't have any scope to point out Brahman. So already I mentioned you 4 categories. And the 5th category, any type of relationships, Needle of a watch, it's a part. So Sambandham, relationship. A word can be used connected with something, Human body's hand. A connection being there. Shashti. Sixth way of showing the connection, like that. We put apostrophe s. Human body's hand. Or a knife which is used for cutting vegetables. Some connection, through that we can use some words. When there is a connection with something, a part, being a part of something, and you can use a word. So these 5 categories are being important in order to use a word. When something fall under one of these categories, then we can use a word. The consciousness, which is I am, who is right now in the form of perceiver, who are listening the class. I'm talking about that individual, who is listening the class, who is attending the class, So that person will not fall under one of these categories. So how can we use the word to point out this consciousness, Brahman? No scope for the words. That is why Shankara told this. I will tell you. Sarva Shabda Pravritti Nimitta Shunyatvad. Shabda Pravritti. Indication through a word and a form will be appearing inside the mind, if you have seen before. There is no scope for Brahman to indicate through a word. Now, what way we have to choose to know the Brahman? By negating the superimposed ideas after studying them. When you remove the superimposed ideas, the reality will appear in front of you. Like that, when you listen from a person that this is not a snake, then what it is? It is a rope. So, in a dark room, you experienced a rope as a snake. Now, the idea about the snake is there inside one's mind. We have to take out the idea now. A person who took my hand and went inside this dark room and switched on the light of the room. Immediately the darkness has gone. The pot or the rope is appearing right in front of me. Then my illusory ideas about the rope has gone. It didn't take much time. At the same time, everything happened. The darkness have been released. The darkness has been dispelled, and the appearance of rope happened at once. Similarly, here in this verse, the negation of the superimposed ideas are quoted in the Upanishad. When you understand with your discrimination, these things are not consciousness, immediately the thing will appear right in front of you. So, the point is, negation or denial of the wrong ideas and the knowledge about the reality will take place at once. There is no time lagging. There are no two activities. That removal of the wrong ideas and the information of the right thing doesn't have too much time, or we need not to put in another effort to know what is the right thing. Both will happen at once. Like, Shankara says in his Bhashya, that he says that the cutting of the tree and the separation of the parts are not two actions. When you cut the tree, that itself will make a separation of a branch from the tree. There is no other activity to make a separate part from the tree. While cutting, that part will get separated. So there is no two activities, cutting and separating. We can utter through the words, but there is no two activities really. Similarly, when you understand the wrong ideas and when you grasp the right idea, they are not two different activities of the mind. They are not two mental actions of life. They are same. This idea should be there inside your mind. Once more, I will repeat the whole gist what I have presented right now. Words don't have any scope to point out the reality of an individual. How then we will understand the reality? Is it an empty thing? Is there any thing when there is no scope for the words to make that understand? Is it shunyam? Shunyam means empty. Then Shankara says that Nahi Rajata Sarpa Purusha Mrigatrishhnigadi Vikalpaha Shuktiga Rajata Shuktiga Rechustanu Usharadi Vetirekena Avastutva Aspadaha Shakya Kalpayadam. I already explained you the last class. It's very important. I am repeating the same class because for the sake of understanding. In order to happen a superimposition, a thing should be evident to you. Without a base, there is no superimposition. The base being there, a superimposition happens. Without a rope, there is no superimposed form of a snake. Without a mirage in the desert, when the desert appears as though there is some water. Without a desert or mirage, there is no superimposition. Without a pillar, we cannot superimpose as a person standing right in front of me in the dark. So, Shankara quote all these examples. The logic, the point is, there is no way of superimposition without a base, without a vastu, without a thing, you cannot superimpose something other than on that. Similarly, the consciousness is not understood by me, but I am seeing with my eyes that I am a body. So it is very easy to superimpose something which is not understood by me, because the consciousness is formless. The formless consciousness cannot be sensed by any of our organs because it is formless. Our organs or our senses can only understand when there are names and forms. But names and forms are just a superimposition on the real thing. So the idea is negating the wrong ideas and understanding the reality. They are not two activities. The Upanishad takes this formula, negating the all misunderstood idea by the words Nantaf Prajnam Ityadi. Na Antaf Prajnam, etc., etc. Up to this, if you understood only, the next things you can grasp properly. So up to this, I think that you understood properly. the words are incapable of pointing the reality, the Shruti, the Upanishad takes an another way, Adhyaropa apavadena nishprapancham prapanchate, neti neti iti vakyena. This is not the reality. It is not the reality. But when there is a superimposed form, there should be a locus. In order to have a superimposition, then we will go to the locus. And what is that locus? There the pramana is Upanishads. Upanishads are the pramana. Upanishads, where the reality is presented. Even there the words are incapable. Reality is presented by negating the words and by negating the superimposed ideas. Shankara gives a basic information in his commentary like this. Now, we will read one by one the words of the verse, and we will see how the things get grasped about oneself. Na antah prajnam, the consciousness which is obtaining in one's own body, inside the body. That's called antah prajnam. Antam means inside. Prajna, for the time being, you can take consciousness. This complete body is conscious now. And people think that this consciousness is Brahman. So, that superimposed idea is that I am this antah prajna. In the dream state, this consciousness creates its own world with the different things. And we enjoy all these things with the same inner consciousness. And we resolve all the things inside this consciousness in the dream state. And he's called Taijasa. The Taijasa is being negated by the na antah prajna, subjective consciousness, more technical way of understanding. A consciousness which obtaining inside the body, which is subjective, is not Brahman. Because Brahman is limitless. It is spread all over the universe, not only inside the body. It is not the dreamer. This is the first meaning of the word na antah prajna. Na bahish prajna, objective consciousness. In the waking state, we are alive, we are conscious about what are the things right in front of me. Then we see different things in front of me, and I put some effort and I will grab certain things, I will avoid certain things. This is called bahish prajna. In fact, bahish prajna means the consciousness which is obtaining in our waking state. He is called Vishwaha. Vishwa is the consciousness which appear in the waking state. So, by negating the Vishwa, that Taijasa and Vishwa are not really the reality. It is only due to the upadhis. A limited body is there. For the sake of understanding through the body, we give a name like a Vishwaha, Taijasaha, etc., etc. And objective consciousness, we can say in the technical way. It's not objective consciousness. In the waking state, we used to see different things and we think that this consciousness is Brahman. That's not the thing. Something which is all pervasive is not something goes through around the body and to see the things. So Vishwa is also negated by saying na bahish prajnam. Now, Shankara says in Bhashya, see, Sarpadi Vikalpa Pradishethena eva Rajyaswarupa Pratipatti Vad Tri Avastasya eva Atmanaha Turiyatvena Pradipadayishitvat. It's that as we do in our stock example, Sarpadi Vikalpa Pradishethena, by negating the whole ideas like snake, stick, etc., etc. Then Rajju Swarupa Pratipatti, we grasp the idea of the rope. Similarly, after negating the three ideas which we already studied from the three states, through that Turiyam, the fourth one, is being understood or intended to make understand by negating the three states and three different names which are appearing, which are the name of consciousness appearing in the different three states. So, the same way, simple example, when the snake is negated, the rope is being there, the real knowledge appears. So, like that only. And here, Shankara says that. Now, Shankara wants to say what is Ubhayada Prajnam. Ubhayada Prajnam means the intermediate consciousness. It's not something intermediate consciousness which is occurring between the waking state and dream state. Na upayada prajnam iti jagrat swapnayoho antarala avastha pratisheda. Shankara says in his Bhashya, I will read other two negations also in Sanskrit. Those who enjoy Sanskrit, please listen. Somebody don't know Sanskrit, no problem. Listening Sanskrit itself is a beautiful way of living, you know. It was one of the ancient language, Devanagari Lipi. So I will just read for the sake of enjoying, you know. I also enjoy when I read. Na andaf prajnam iti taijasaf pradishedah. Na bahish prajnam iti vishwa pradishedah. Na upayada prajnam iti jagrat swapnayoho antarala pradishedah. You know, murcha in Sanskrit. You are not inside the waking state. You are not in the waking state. You know, between the waking state and dream state, you are staying. This is called murcha, intermediate consciousness. When you sleep, sometimes in the daytime, you can grasp all the events occurring around you, even though you are in the sleep. Still, you are not in the waking state. But you are closed eyes, you are laying down, but you can understand everything what are going on around you. This is called murcha, an intermediate consciousness. Atma, the Brahman, the goal is not an intermediate consciousness. And Shankara says in Bhashya, na prajnana ganam iti sushupti avastha pradishedah. Mass of consciousness, mass of sentience. That is called prajnana ganam, the mass of consciousness. When you go to deep sleep, your senses are not working. At the same time, when you wake up, the senses will recreate the situations which you have already pending in the last day. That means there is a connection. It will also make understand that everything get merged temporarily. Suppose you booked a ticket in the last day and you are going to travel in the afternoon and you go to sleep. And while sleeping, you are not a human being at all. Your senses are not working, your hands are not working, nothing is working. But once you wake up with the idea that you already booked a ticket and you have to travel. How it get? Because temporarily only everything get merged. In the night or in the daytime, your ideas get temporarily merged. This is called mass consciousness. In the night, one individual go to sleep. In the time of everything get resolved, it's called in Sanskrit pralaya. All the entire creation will get temporarily vanished for a time being. It can be million years, even though I said temporary. So what I want to say is the temporary merging will not promise you everything got resolved like the salt inside a dish. You cannot take the salt anymore because it's already resolved everywhere. Similarly, your ideas and your work and the painting work, everything get resolved inside the consciousness. Fine. Thus, the consciousness, the mass consciousness, which we say deep sleep, and the name is prajnaha, the individual, the consciousness which appear, the guy who appeared, the name is called prajna. Because there is no separation in the deep sleep, so that we experience happiness, so that people may conclude that after going to meditation and go for a sleep, that is called moksha or liberation. That's not liberation. Even in the meditation, you go half sleep actually. But that doesn't mean you are moksha, or it's the way of understanding the reality. It's okay. Through meditation, if you go for a sleep, it's a good sleep. Nothing wrong on that. But that doesn't mean that you are free from all kinds of limitations. That's not the way. So here it is told, na prajnana ganam idi sushupti avastha pradisheda. Sushupti avastha, deep sleep state, and the name is prajna. Bija bhava avivega rupatvat. Even though everything is there inside that mass consciousness, it's not there at all separately. Now, na prajnam idi yugavat sarva vishaya prajnadritva pradisheda. Na prajna. Na prajnam. The next word, in the empirical dealing, we go from one to one. It's a big capacity, I think about my wife, I think about my children, I think about my dog, I think about my career, I think about my car. Lot of things are there around me. With this single consciousness, I can think about anything, about the stars, about the dog, everything. At once, I can make different thoughts. Because of the glory of this consciousness, people may think that this consciousness is Brahman. So it is been negated by that. Na prajnam, a consciousness which goes at a time to different thoughts, to things. That is not the consciousness which we are talking about. If you have the glory, you can draw with your right hand, You can draw with your left hand at a time. You can draw different pictures, or you can speak, you can sing, you can run, even you can lift lot of weight and power. Everything is available. But the same time, even do different duties, that prajna is not consciousness. That's not the goal. Na prajnam idi sarva vishayatva prajnadritva pradishetaha. Na aprajnam. Shankara says, na aprajnam idi achaitanya pradishetaha. People may think, oh, it is just like a rock. You know, it is insentient. Achaitanyatva pradishetaha. It is not insentient. Few people may think jada vastu. Jada means insentient, inert. The whole creation is superimposed on an inert thing. Can you imagine this type of wrong idea? It is pure consciousness which is going to say in the next few words. So, na aprajnam idi achaitanyatva achaitanya pradishetaha. It is negating the idea of inertness. Then, very beautiful words right now. Up to this, okay. Nantaf prajnam na bahish prajnam na upayataf prajnam na prajnanaganam na prajnam na aprajnam. Now listen carefully. One of the beautiful sentence in the Upanishad. Adrishtam. The negation of all senses in order to grasp or in order to perceive the Brahman. Drishtam, cannot see. The eyes will represent all senses. Ears, the senses of hearing, the senses of listening, ears, the senses of seeing, the senses of smelling, nose, the senses of taste and talk, everything. All the senses are being negated. All the senses are being negated by saying that adrishtam, it is not perceived by any senses. Shankara in his Bhashya says like this. Adrishtam. I will read. Before that, one sentence also, it will be very beautiful. See. Katham punaha antah prajñatvadinam atmani gamyamanam rajvadau sarpadi pradishedad asatvam gamyade iti uchyade. How can one understand after negating all these ideas about the reality? Rajvadau sarpadivad pradishedatvad. Negating the idea of snake, rope, etc. on a rope, then we will grasp that by the lightning of, by dispelling the darkness through a lamp or light, we will get the knowledge of the rope and we will negate the idea of snake. Together it will happen. So, therefore it is adrishtam. It is not being perceived by any external senses. Senses are capable of grasping anything which is having names and forms. For example, even though if we are blind, some people are blind in this world by birth, but they grasp the idea of some birds because of the voice. Like that, any name and form can only be grasped by 5 senses of knowledge, like listening, seeing, like that. The words, if somebody says and I listen and I do that, even though I'm in a dark room. Similarly, it is not been grasped by any of the senses. Why? It is not having any form or any name. Arupatvat, anamatvat, it doesn't have any name or form. Yasmad adrishtam tasmad avyavaharyam. Avyavaharyam. What is meant by avyavaharyam? Vyavaharam, empirical dealing. That which is not available through any form of senses is not available for empirical dealing. Because it is not a form or a name. When there is a form or name, then only empirical dealing can happen on something. So that it is not available for any kind of empirical dealing. The word sarvavyabi, all pervading, can only happen when there is no form. When you have a form, you are only from here to here and from here to here. This is your thickness and this is your width. After that, anybody can occupy. Because you are not a sarvavyabi, you are a limited person. When there is something limited, you can employ your senses and you can grasp or you can perceive the things. When you don't have, when you are not having any form, when it is all pervading, then it is not available for our senses. And also, I will give one more idea. Something which is being the power of sense, by whom the eyes are working, by whom the eyes can see certain things, that conscious entity is not being perceived by the eyes, because eyes are extroverted. It cannot grasp the thing which is working behind the eyes. How the eyes are working, and I will not ask a question like this. Because eyes are working due to the presence of consciousness. Eyes can go through to the external things. It will not go towards the internal thing. Chakshushaha chakshuhu. In Kena Upanishad, there is an Upanishad from Atharvana Veda. Kena Upanishad, by whom everything is working here. Every names and forms are there. By whom? Chakshushaha chakshuhu. Chakshus means eyes. The eye of the eyes. It cannot be grasped by the eye. You cannot sit in your own shoulders. Shankara says in one Upanishad, you can sit in somebody's shoulder. You cannot sit in your own shoulders. Eyes can see external things. I cannot see one's own consciousness which are working behind the eyes. Then this is called avyavaharyam, which is not available for empirical dealing because it's not name and form. Then the other word is agrahyam. Adrishtam, avyavaharyam, agrahyam. You cannot grasp with your hands. Granati, holding or grasping something. When something is formless, when something is not an object, how are you going to hold something? It is the negation of all other organs of actions. No? Legs, hand, the tongue which speak, and the other two organs, So all the negation of the senses of action is also done by agrahyam. You cannot hold the Brahman. Agrahyam. So 5 senses of knowledge is also negated. 5 senses of actions are negated. And it is not a thing to get in your empirical dealing. It will also negate the idea of looking towards your goal in externally. Going to a temple and seeing something, going meditation, something which is not available externally. What is the point of doing that and this and that? Pranayama is negated. Kriya Yoga is negated. Meditation is negated. These are all means. When it comes to the point of, when it comes to this topic of means, everything is subserving. Everything have a role. But when it comes to the reality, when something is not available through any of the action, or when something is not available through any of the senses, what is the point of roaming around to see in search of God? Then what is the point of going to temple? When you go to temple, you are free from all other activities and you can focus the mind and you can cheer up for the next day. As a basic person, this is the idea. Suppose if you are a spiritual person, going to temple has a purpose. Again, more purpose. When you go to the temple, you are more focused towards your goal. When you have certain understanding towards the temple and the deity, and you do a prayer, and that prayer will make some purification inside the mind. When the mind gets purified, you are a straightforward, right-thinking person, and you will reach under a guru to listen the glorious knowledge. For a spiritual person, this is the role of the temple. But there is no goal in temple, really speaking. Nedam ididam upasade. Upanishad itself deny the Lord which is secondary from you. It's a stone inside the temple. It's a deity. It's made of stone. So secondary things are not capable of revealing your goal. That's why avyavaharyam, adrishtam, agrahyam, these words have lot of things to say. And then again say, alakshanam, lingam idi edat, anumeyam, ananumeyam idi arthaha. The lakshanam means some indications, some marks, like that, When it rains in the night and you are completely sleeping and you see the wetness in the ground in the morning, the wetness is the indication of the rainfall occurred in the night. If you see some pug mark, oh, some dog has entered in my garden. The pug marks are the indication of entering some animals. This is called indication, lakshanam. The word lakshanam means an indication. Even we identify female or male, there are some indication. When it is a male body, there are some indication of a female body. That indication, the marks are called lakshanam. When Brahman is not itself an object or subject, what lakshanam you can get from that? That's why alakshanam. You cannot infer or you cannot nothing. Presumption is not possible. Inference is not possible. You see the footwear of the person outside the house, so that you assume that the person is inside the house. This is called, through an indicatory mark, you grasp the idea that the person is inside the house. When the Brahman itself is not having any name and form, how are you going to get any indicatory marks to identify or to assume Brahman? That's why alakshanam. Logical is not possible. Few people say that I don't see God like I see you or like my father, so I don't believe in God. The word will echo. There is no indication of the presence of the Lord. So you don't infer like what you infer in the empirical reality. I can see you, so I assume that you exist in the world. Similarly, I don't see Lord, so I don't believe in Lord. For them, this is the answer. There is no any indicatory marks of the all-pervasive Lord. So that logic is completely bluffing the people. They are called yuktivadis, logicians. They say that our logic is the only way for the people to survive. All others are just blind of believing a God who is not available for your perception. Even today also I saw in one channel, nobody will come from the heaven or from the outside. You have to help yourself. Hey, I have an answer for you. Who arranged your bone and who arranged your ears, who arranged your eyes, who arranged your body in such a way to talk like this in front of us? Can you make sure whether your father arranged or whether your mother arranged or whether your mother's stomach arranged? Who arranged your body to talk right like this in front of you? It is natural phenomenon. Without a person who has an understanding about to put in an order, there is no order. The body is in an order. If it is in an order, there is somebody to put everything in order, in right place. This itself is enough to tell them. But we don't argue with those type of people. They are illogical by birth. And they appear as though they are the logicians in the world. So they say, because there is no indicatory mark of the Lord in this world, we don't believe in the Lord. And they will believe when they get sick or when they are in trouble. Then they will call the Lord, they will everything, This is called hypocrisy. Fine. Alakshanam, no indicatory marks about this Brahman existence, Brahman's existence. Alakshanam. So that alakshanam achintyam. Then the next word is achintyam, which is out of our mind. You cannot grasp with the mind. Why? Achintyam, which is not even grasped with our mind. Mind can only grasp small things, which has having name and form. Mind is not possible to grasp the biggest thing on the world because it's all pervading. Even the mind is being perverted by this. Mind can grasp a glass or a tumbler or an elephant or a moon, anything. Mind cannot grasp the all pervading thing. And another logic for the sake of understanding, if you grasp something with your mind, it will become small. It will become limited. Being it is limitless, being it is one of the biggest thing in the world, mind is very small compared to that. This mind can only grasp certain ideas about a thing. When there is no indications, when the thing is not in a form, when something is all pervading, including the mind, how can the mind can grasp something which is big? So, achintyam, it is not possible to think by the mind. Then it is told, ataha eva avyapateshyam. It is not a topic to discussion or to convey through a message or words. I already mentioned you, words are not possible to mention the Brahman. They have their own limitation. Achintyam. Up to this, You please listen again and again. Then we will move to the next words. Once the confusions are removed, you please listen 1 or 2 classes, 1 or 2 times the same class. And if there are any confusion regarding these words, let me know through our group, okay? Then we will go to the Ekatma Pratyasaram, etc., etc. We will stop the class now, okay? Om Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobrahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Vashadu Parjanyah Prithvi Sasya Shadini Deshoyam Choparhitaha Brahmana Santu Narbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschat Dukkha Bhavet Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti